So, welcome to PTU Barbell Podcast, Episode 8. We've got the awesome Dr. Winston George Ellis here. Hey, is that all right?
Yeah, Doctor, yeah. I still can't get used to the Doctor bit.
Yeah.
You know, some people say it. I was like, yeah, that is Dr. Winston.
You got to rock it as it is, man. You got to own that. So, why did we ask him here? So, he's an awesome actor. He's also a martial artist. And he loves the gym himself, and not to mention, he's an actual Reading boy.
Yes, born and bred Reading boy, that's it. Awesome. I'll keep coming up to Reading.
Lovely, man. Look, great to meet you. Thank you for coming on.
No, thanks for having me on the show, guys.
So, born in Reading, and where did it all go from there?
Yeah, well, it all go wrong with me. No, I was born at a hospital called Delwood, doesn't it? See, the thing is, right, this is like a trauma time for me now, because I was born in a hospital which was called Delwood Hospital. And once I left, after the year I was born there, they turned it into a mental institution. And then it became, now it's like a nursing home for cancer patients. And then I went to Alpha Sutton Boys School. And the year I left there, they changed that, they closed that.
You left your mark then?
Yeah, so I'm starting to really have this stigma of thinking, what have I done? You know what I mean? But, yeah, Reading's always been my home. I love Reading. It's always been my place. You know?
Wicked. And obviously you're a big gym man, so did you get started in the gym early or?
Yeah, I started doing, I was used to a Boy Scout, funny thing enough, and I was doing the Boy Scout stuff, and they had this thing where they said you had to have an interest badge. And I was always focused trying to get everything done, but when I had the interest badge, I thought, hobby thing, I thought, what am I going to do? And I couldn't think of anything to do. And they opened up a martial arts school at the bottom of my road. And I had no idea what martial arts was all about. I didn't even know it. And I thought to myself, I'll just go down there, I'll do it for a few weeks, get the badge, I'm done. Went down there and I absolutely fell in love with the martial arts, and that was it. And I never looked back at Boy Scout stuff ever again.
Yeah.
So I just engrossed myself. And then when I was about 16, I met with the famous Dave French, and he used to have a little gym by a place called the Alfred's Head Pub. It was like a little garage.
Yeah.
So I did this little area here, and I started training with him and he started introducing me into different types of strength training. Because the martial arts was great, and it's great for your flexibility, for your speed, and all that kind of stuff like that. But I always felt to myself, I need something more behind it, you know what I mean? And when he was very good at helping you condition your body for that type of exercise, that type of thing. So I've been doing it since I was about 16 years old, so, you know what I mean?
Nice. And we quickly touched on before we started recording how far you've gone in the martial arts world. So just give us a lowdown of your biggest achievements. So some of them are really actually quite amazing, actually. I was pretty shocked.
In the martial arts world, I'm a 3-time world champion with Thai kickboxing. I'm a US Open winner, and I'm a black belt 7th dan in Kung Fu.
Oh, yeah.
And, so the thing is, right, you know, I look back...
Take what you want, man.
The thing is, I look back over that time now, and I think to myself, you know, I focused so much of my life into the martial arts, and it was because I suffered with dyslexia. So when I was going to school, you know, they didn't have it diagnosed back then, and so you know, I used to always cause disruption in classes. So I get thrown out. And I remember when I left school, my teacher, the head teacher of the school, saying to me, "Mr. Ellis, you're never going to amount to anything." And I was about 16 years old. And the funny thing is, I think I was about 36, 37, and he was working for me for about 10 years. He ended up working for me because the martial arts gave me discipline. And then, you know, once you start training, you get into that sort of, once you do it for 2 weeks, it becomes like a habit. Do it for a month, it becomes like a routine, it becomes a way of life, you know what I mean? And it's all the discipline. And so I've taken that discipline in every other aspect of my life. You know?
Awesome. What's your favourite martial art? And
what did you start with?
I started with Lao Gar Kung Fu, and then I went on to Eagle Po Kung Fu with a guy called Leong Fu, and we did Hungar, and then I got into Jiu-Jitsu. And then I worried, because the thing is, I didn't just want to wear a belt. Do you know what I mean? I saw a lot of guys back then, there was all these different organisations that were up, and everybody had a black belt. But I didn't just want to wear a belt, I wanted to actually turn around and say, well, if I want to put this on, I want to know it works. So I started to try and get into Thai boxing with Master Toddy and Master Sken, Ronnie Green and these guys. And that's when I started trying to compete, because I thought to myself, the only way I'm going to find out how good I am is I want to go to Holland, I want to go to Germany, I want to take on guys out there, and I want to see if this works. You know what I mean? And that's what I started doing, and ended up going off in America, then in Japan, and in Hong Kong, and you know what I mean?
Wow, you've seen the world with it as well.
Yeah, this martial arts has taken me around the world, and it's given me the career I have today, because how I got into the film business, I was actually on the beach in Cyprus, and I had just finished my last fight, I detached my retina, find a Holland guy, And it was like 11:45 midnight, and I remember thinking, I've got my son now, and I'm a father, and I can't afford to keep getting beaten up like this. I've got my hands all busted up, still going. I'm thinking, I can't afford to keep getting beaten up like that. I've got to find a different type of career. And at the time, I had the gymnasiums, but people weren't really, as much as they're into it now, they wasn't really into it then. So I remember I was on the beach and I started doing my classes and doing these martial arts moves. I thought no one's watching me. And all of a sudden this little Chinese guy comes up and he goes, my boss has been watching you from the hotel. And I was like, okay. And back then I had, you remember, I had long curly hair, you know what I mean? I was like, listen, don't let the long hair fool you, man. That ain't gonna happen. He's like, no, seriously, my boss wants to meet you. And he took me back into the hotel, and it was Jackie Chan and Philip Cohen. They were there, location shooting for a movie. 6 weeks later, I was in Hong Kong making my first picture. And that's how I got in the movie business.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I never told none of my family, none of my friends, I never told anybody. I just took off to Hong Kong. Black man in Hong Kong, no other black man out there. You get off a plane in Hong Kong, and everybody's like this high. You can see over everybody, you know what I mean? And I stood up like a sort of.
You were the original Chris Tucker.
There's a story behind that, because I swear to you, I have a photograph of me and Jackie in his offices, and he just sat down and he told me the concept of that movie, and I said to myself, never work.
That could have been.
Up until the time, there was no crossover movies.
Yeah.
Hong Kong movies, it was a case of you do the action, and then about 2 minutes later you hit sound. Because they do this thing called sync sound. So I never spoke Cantonese. I speak Cantonese now, but I never spoke it back then. So it was a case of whenever time I was doing dialogue on the screen, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that was what I did. And then some Chinese guy would come behind me and say, wait, dubbed it in.
They're the original good ones. They were all the government.
He's got a really good accent.
So the thing about it is when he was coming to me and telling me all this stuff, I was thinking, yeah. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. I look at it now, it's one of the biggest franchises.
Yeah.
But I think to myself, certain things are meant for certain people. Because if you think about it, like Pirates of the Caribbean, I did that years later. That was supposed to be Tom Cruise as the lead character. Now, really?
Yeah. Nah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and Robert Downey Jr., they all got offered the part before Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
You just couldn't imagine anyone else playing that role.
Exactly, and now you can't imagine it because Johnny brought his own personal character to it. And it's the same thing with Chris Tucker. That role was made for him. Do you know what I mean? Him and Jackie, they've got a relationship that's just, you know what I mean?
And I love his voice as well. You know, that sort of like high pitch.
Voice,
You know, that really works in that comedy scene with Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
And,
I can't do that. I can't do that. The thing about it,
Are you sure?
the thing about the Chinese guy behind me.
You could have dubbed it.
We did this fight routine with Jackie when I first went out there, and basically, nowadays the stunt. I used to do all my own stunts back then. But what they used to do is they have hydraulics, what we do in the movies now. So if you get shot by a shotgun, you get a big kick. You've got like a strap up on you, and the hydraulic system pulls you through. Well, back then we never had all that. You know what I mean? And so I was fighting Jackie in this film, and he's going to kick me. I'm supposed to go flying through this pane of glass. I was like, well, how's that going to happen? And he was like, well, this is what we're going to do. Those 10 guys, the Chinese guys there, are going to hold onto a rope, and they're going to put that rope around your waist. And I'm going to hit you, and you're going to go flying through that glass. And I'm like, and that's how they do it. You know what I mean? And he goes, but before that, I want you to kick me in the face. And I'm thinking, I beg your pardon? And he goes, it's going to be this fight routine, and you're going to do this roundhouse kick and kick me in the face. And I'm thinking, I don't care how good you think you are. If I kick you in the face, you ain't getting up. I was like, no. And he goes, no. Then what we're going to do, we're going to film it. You're going to do this kick, and it's going to come around. But when you get to this area, you're going to go right in front of me. The camera's behind. You're going to go right in front of me. I'm going to show the impact. I said, how are you going to do that? He goes, watch. So they put the camera behind Jackie, and he goes right through the kick, and I threw a roundhouse kick right in front of him. Then they turn the camera around, so it's pointing at him on the side of his face here. And he goes, we're going to throw the same kick, but this time I want you to take your trousers off. And I'm like, what? What kind of fucking thing is this? And basically it was like, they took off the trousers and took off my socks and shoes. Honest to God, true story. And they put his arm, this arm, through this leg of the trousers. All right, so through the sock on, put the shoe on, looked at the guy's face and went, bam! And then he took his shoe and I was like, that's how you do it! That's how you do it! I'm like, damn! No, I just completely crushed me, man.
You wanted to kick his face.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that was it for me. That's how I got into the industry.
Oh, that's amazing, man. So did obviously your training career then brought you to the forefront of the film industry?
Yeah, the thing is, I think back then a lot of actors weren't really working out and just started performing their art. And then it started to become a trend where, you start training, you work out, you get different roles. So I was getting roles as a bodyguard, I was a hitman, I was a fighter. And then it just started to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
But I say, training and discipline and focus on that, that's what helped to get me my career going.
And for the people that are obviously listening, if you haven't checked out his Instagram yet, you're in shape from your whole life, basically. I didn't find a picture of you out of shape, basically. I was like, there's got to be one. There's got to be some dirt. Even like Wikipedia, where's the dirt?
No, I've always tried to keep myself in some sort of reasonable shape because I think of myself as failure to prepare is preparing to fail. That's how I was looking at it. And the thing is, with this industry, things change. And I could, for example, say how I got Pirates of the Caribbean. I was actually in South Africa and I was shooting a Crunch Nut Cool Place commercial. And it was like a takeoff of Point Break where Keanu Reeves is chasing.
Yeah, I saw that. That was cool. I like that. That's cool. That's really cool.
So I did that commercial and I remember being out there for 2 weeks filming this commercial and my agent called up and said, we've had a phone call from Jerry Bruckheimer. They want me to do Pirates of the Caribbean. This is the second film. And they'd already done the first one. I was thinking, Pirates of the Caribbean? Yeah, it's one of these old pirate movies. I'm like, nah, not for me. Because the thing is, I'm black man. I'm going to be a slave, and I'm going to get whipped and get killed in the first scenes. I'm not doing it. So I turned it down. Honestly, I turned it down. Came back to the UK a week later after shooting the commercial, and my daughter had rented the video at the time of the first movie. And I remember I sat there, and I had a really bad cold, so I could hardly speak. Because it's come from a hot country in there, and I remember watching it, and I'm watching that scene where Johnny's walking from the sinking ship onto the deck, and I'm thinking, this is going to be big. I said to this, so I got on the phone, called man, and said, listen, any chance I can get on that council? She goes, no, sir, not done. I was like, I was gutted. About 2 days later, I get a phone call. We've had a phone call from Jerry Bruckheimer saying, they've got this character called Prolifico, and they want you to cast for it. And I could hardly talk. I was like, well, I can't talk right now, I can't talk. So Lucy, you've got to come down and do this live video conference thing in London. So I had to jump on a train out of Reading Station, all at Soho. I've wrapped up, I've got a big coat on the whole thing, gone into the studio, there's a big TV screen. And you've got Johnny Gould, who's the director, and Jerry Bruckheimer. And they said to me, say these words, the captain goes down with his ship. I was like, the captain goes down with his ship.
That's
pretty good to do. I went free good to do. So
sick.
Then after 18 months in the Bahamas filming 2 films back to back, and I'm still on the contract to do another one.
Yeah.
Amazing. All these years later. So, yeah.
That's excellent. That's amazing, mate. Nice. So who do you love working with the most? Because obviously you even did obviously The Dark Knight, so obviously you must have met the late Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
And you've been with done film Shiner with Michael Caine, and obviously the Pirates of the Caribbean film. So you've been with a lot of big films. And so who was your favourite person to work with as actor and maybe producer?
Crikey, that's a good question. I don't want to upset anybody.
Well, okay, anyone that stuck out that actually like you?
I just finished shooting the latest James Bond movie with Daniel Craig, and this is the last one. And it was great actually because we're on a film set. It's a crowded film set. It's my first day on filming. And they've got me, I can't really tell you much about my character or whatever, but I've appeared on this set. And as I've appeared on this set, he's come in, and he's come across, he's looking at me, he's like, hey, and he's walked up and shook my hand. I was like, you think I'm interested, don't you? Yeah, he's very interested.
Better looking.
I don't really do a lot of stuff with him, you know what I mean? But I think one of the people that stands out, the persons that stand out most in my career is Roger Moore. And I've worked with 3 James Bonds now, 4 James Bonds. Timothy Dalton, we did Penny Dreadful together, and Roger Moore did The Quest with Man Down in Thailand. And Roger Moore stands out because this guy was the most down-to-earth human being I've ever met in my life. He was so engaging and he had so much time. And I remember we were out in Thailand and they had that TV show, I think it was on a Friday night, it was like Michael Parkinson, it's called Film Something, where he would go around where we would interview these different film stars. And this is going back in the 90s now. And he was interviewing, he'd come up to interview Roger Moore. And so I did this interview. And I was walking past and he was like, Winston, young man, come here. And he goes, put your fanny right there. I looked at him and I was thinking to myself, he goes, he goes, in England, he goes, in America, your fanny is your ass, it's something you sit on. In England, it's something you eat. This is Roger Moore.
Respect.
So Roger Moore said this to me. So from that minute, it was like, I spent 6 months getting to know him. And he was just an incredible human being. So as far as enjoyment of meeting someone, he was the best. But then the best camaraderie and family environment I've been in is in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We were stuck on an island called Freeport in the Bahamas, and all the cast and crew are stuck on this island. And so you're living, you're eating, drinking, everything, food, you're working together in a very small space. So it's like a big family.
Oh, amazing.
It's an amazing time.
Amazing. You don't seem to be fazed by any big names. So is there any big names you have been fazed by? Like you wanted to kick Jackie Chan's face off. So like for me, if I met Jackie Chan, I'm like, oh, Jackie Chan, don't kill me.
The person that I tell you something, one time I've been starstruck twice in my life, I have to say. I went to the BAFTAs, the LA BAFTAs, about 2008, and Sidney Poitier was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I remember thinking, my God, Sidney Poitier, and I got to meet this guy. I grew up watching this man. He changed TV, the way black people were seen on film. You know what I mean? So he was like my massive hero. And I got sat at his table. And so I'm like, this is honest to God's truth. I'm sat at some big round table, and he's here. And I'm like, Mr. Poitier, this is an honor. And I could feel the tears in my eyes because I'm thinking, this is him. This is really him. And we got some photographs taken. And I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, what? And all of a sudden, I look at him and goes, were you in this Clint Eastwood? And he's getting under my tongue. He's trying to talk to Sidney. I'm sorry.
Carry on.
I'm sitting over there. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, but him and Denzel Washington. I'd love to work with Denzel. I haven't had a chance, but there's something on the cards at the moment I can't talk about. And that would be somebody else that I really admire. I want to work with.
Awesome.
When you said with the Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously you had a lot of special effects or makeup and stuff. What was it like acting with? I've seen all the little markers and what's it like doing that?
It was almost impossible.
And almost you're acting, but you don't know really what you're looking like or acting.
Yeah, there's scenes where I'm working with my captain, which is Bill Nye, and because he's got the octopus head with all the tentacles. Thanks, man. Because he's got the octopus head with all the tentacles, we don't see that for real. You see on the film, we don't see it first because what he's actually wearing is a pajama suit with loads of dots on it.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm like, you guys are about now to be a pirate, and I always dress up, I want to be a pirate, and I've got to wear a pajama suit for 18 months. And the only time I actually get to dress up like a pirate is right at the end when we become our own selves at the end of the film. Yeah. But it was like we had to stay a certain distance and always be careful because we have to be aware of, like, if I'm talking to him here, I have to be aware that I can't go beyond this certain distance because his tentacles are there. I have to imagine his tentacles being there. And with mine, I had this big shell head, and my eyes would do this crazy thing with snakes and things would come out my eyes every now and then when I got angry. But I would just like ham it up and play with it and play with the character because I remember when we got there, the first time we got there on film, and then Gordon Vinci came up and he had us on the line. And he's walking down talking to the different actors, and he was saying, listen, your character does this, and your character does that, and you're going to be this character. And then when he got to me, he just looked at me and was like, what do you want?
Was that the first time you've done a role where it was
CGI? Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever worked with this on a CGI thing. And the thing about it is, it's crazy because I'd worked on Shiner with Michael Caine and Andy Serkis. And Andy Serkis went on to become the man that started all the CGI stuff.
He was Gollum, wasn't he?
Yeah, Gollum. Yeah. He owns the company. He owns the company. So he went on. He was talking about it then, and I still couldn't understand it. So I missed out on some real things in my life, I can't tell you. But yeah, Andy did an amazing job because now he is the man to go to.
Was Gollum his first?
I think so.
Character like that.
I think so. Then he went on to do the Planet of the Apes, where he played the alien, and King Kong. He played in that as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's like in the forefront of the CGI world.
That's crazy.
What's been your favourite role to play? Like, you always played bodyguards, and you've done a lot of sword fighting and
I've done
big special effects.
Like I think to date, one of the favourite characters that I've played has been this new Bond movie. Even though it's a small cameo, it's a nice little piece for me But as far as acting is concerned, I think doing Pirates of the Caribbean was a real challenge. And being at it for 18 months and you work with such high-end actors, and so you have to be on your game, you have to be in point of it. So yeah, but we've got something I'm doing right now, and I think this is going to be the best thing for me. It's the best challenge I've ever. It's based on a true story, and it's about this guy called Tom Molyneux, and a guy called Tom Cribb, and they were bare knuckle boxers. And Tom Molyneux was a guy that fought his way out of slavery to fight Tom Cribb here back in the 1800s.
Wow.
And so it's the reason why the Marquis of Queensberry rules came into effect, because this part was brutal. You know what I mean? And so we've got some big cast guys and big names on it.
Yeah.
And I'm producing it and also playing a very big role in it as well.
Awesome.
They're all good characters, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing that one. What role was it that you played in Cass? Because I remember Cass.
Oh yeah, Zulu. I played Zulu in Cass, and that was a nasty piece of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I met Cass Pennant, and he said to me, I want you to play this character. It's based on the truth. This guy's a real guy, and he's a nasty piece of work. I met him when I was in prison, and this is what the guy had done. He told me stories, and I was thinking to myself, just listen to the story from Cass Pennant telling you about this guy. I was sitting there listening to shit myself. What? And this guy's a real, he's a real living person. I'm thinking, I've got to get this right. You know what I mean? So some of the stuff that he's done, I can't even mention on the podcast because people won't believe it. He's very violent man. And I went to visit and sit down and talk to him and understand a bit more about his character. And I thought to myself, yeah, some people deserve to be locked up, and you're one of them. I'm glad you're so behind this thing. You stay right where you are, man, because definitely not. But when I went on screen, it was crazy because we rehearsed the fight sequences in there, and I have to still keep apologizing to Nonzo. Nonzo, I'm so sorry, because he's the guy that played Cass in the movie. And if you watch the fight sequence, you'll see that I actually knock him out. I actually knock him out.
He's a big fella as well.
Yeah, he's 6'4". Thank God fucking he wake up. Because we had rehearsed this fight sequence, and it was choreographed by a guy called Dave Lee. And he choreographed this fight scene. We worked on it. And I've been used to, because I was working in the stunt game and stuff, I was used to how I move and how I move. Nonzo, he wasn't so used to it because he's an actor. And I was thinking, you really want to get a stunt double in who can move and do this kind of thing, because this is quite a complicated fight scene to do in a very small area with two really big guys. And one of them doesn't have that kind of training. And basically, we worked on the routine and rehearsal.
I told you.
When I say duck, he didn't duck.
We worked on this routine over and over again, and we got it right. And I said, "Are you sure you got it right?" He goes, "Yeah, got it. Right, we did it again and again and again." As soon as the camera went on, it's like everything went out the window again. That's what I mean. And the thing is, my part is I'm on the blind side, and so I come up and I had to swing out. And he moved the wrong way. He turned right into me. And I was like, whoa. And he said, you could hear him snoring. It's just like,
Wow.
He got
How tall are you? You must be like 6'2".
6'1".
6'1".
Yeah, he's like 6'5",
Yeah.
6'4",
Oh,
6'5".
Yeah.
Like, the guy was like,
He's big.
he's about 28 stone.
Took him out still.
Yeah, one shot.
This is the photograph that we've got, and I'll actually send it to you guys. It's got Cass on one side and Non's on the other side. I'm in the middle. I'm sure.
Yeah.
This guy's a terrible what I made. That's Eddie Hall. That's the man. It's like Eddie. When I met Eddie, he's like weighing. He was 31 years old and he was weighing 31 stone.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
He drove down from South Stoke-on-Trent to meet me here to ask me to do this documentary for him. And I got into his truck. When I got in the truck, he had these two big family size, and I'm not even kidding, they're like, this is the coolers you take to the beach. Two big family size coolers in the back of the truck. And I'm like, what's with that? And he goes, well, have a look. And I opened up one, it was empty. And I opened up the other one, and it had like chicken. You name it, there's all this kind of food in there. And he goes, that's for the journey home. And that one, the empty one, is the journey on down here. And it's like 15,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
15,000, that's just going to kill you. I'm like, come on, man. Who can have 50? You're just constantly eating. We went to Switzerland together and to go meet the investors, and they took us out to dinner and they put some steak on the table. And I'm not kidding, these steaks were like this. And he's just ate it, and then he went ate his, and then he went ate it. And I'm thinking, how do you eat like that?
Mad.
That's just insane. You know,
Wow.
What is it like meeting him? Like, is he a nice guy? Tell us a bit about him.
Eddie's he's a wonderful man, and very determined. Once he's made his mind up, there's no change in it. You know what I mean? And but one thing I found about Eddie is the fact that once he doesn't care about he cares about training, and to get him to focus on the fact that now you want to become an actor, so you don't do that kind of training anymore. You have to focus on training to become an actor. You know what I mean? But his life is training. I think he always wants to be the best at whatever he's doing, and he's got that drive and determination. After life.
Yeah, is you think he's going to beat 4, or who's going to win that fight? Put your money down.
I tell you something, right? Speed and technique, I give to Eddie. But
they don't call him the mountain for nothing.
Yeah, everybody's got a puncher's chance. When you've got that kind of weight behind you, and you can throw a punch, all you got to do is connect, and that's it. And this is the thing with these guys, there is real hatred there. So it's not like a boxer when they're in the ring and there's a certain amount of controlled aggression. These guys want to rip each other's heads off. You know what I mean?
Does Eddie have boxing experience?
He has been taking a lot of boxing lessons now.
Yeah.
Because one of my friends is one of the top stunt coordinators in the world, Ray Nicholas. He's a boxer. He's training Eddie. And now Eddie's actually hired a professional boxing that he's training with. You know what I mean? But I have to admit, he is moving and looking really good. I've been watching the tapes because we're going to be filming some of it for the documentary. And we're going to be there filming on the day, but yeah, that's one that I'm kind of nervous about the outcome. Because it's just, to me, these two big guys who have really got this grudge match, and they're two incredibly strong human beings. I just feel to myself, you know what, for entertainment, I don't want to see anybody get hurt for entertainment. You know what I mean? And I just feel to myself, someone's going to get hurt. Because that's a lot of power. You know what I mean? We did a scene in, I don't want to give away too much about it, but in the documentary we did, Eddie would turn around and talk about life experiences. And I remember asking him, I said to him, Eddie, you lift 500 kilos off the ground. How do you get your mind into that mindset? What do you have to do? And he said to me, I actually thought about my wife and kids in a car on fire. And I have to go and pick the car up and flip it over. And that's why I get my head into that headspace. And I thought to myself, let's film that. You know what I mean? So when I ask you the question on film, the audience will see the actual reenaction on the screen. So we decided to film that. So we've got Stoke-on-Trent, we've got this BMW, we bring the car up, it's on a special gimbal. So basically we have flames inside of it, fire engines there, stuff like that. And there's 10 of us, the stunt coordinators, and there's a woman inside the car. It's all controlled flames, but yet still the car will only roll a certain way, and it will stop. I'm not kidding you, we had the cameras all set up, and then Eddie comes, we're filming Eddie, and he comes running towards the car, and the rain is coming down, he's running towards the car, and he hit this vehicle, and it shifted about 4 feet. And that's 10 guys behind it trying to stop it. I've got photographs, I feel if I know you know, I've got a photograph.
Wow.
I'm literally trying to stop this fucking thing from moving. In fact, I might have it on my phone, but I'm not kidding you, seriously. He hit this vehicle with full force, and literally it shifted about 4 feet.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this guy's not human.
Yeah. His name's a beast, but no reason either.
He is not human.
And that was a reenactment.
Yeah, that's a reenactment. And the thing is, he's able to get himself into that mind space. But it's like, they're in the gym and it's like, you've got some weights like this down here. And I was like, so you can bench press that? And he's looking at me, he's laughing before I was taking the piss. And I goes, no, that's my arm curls. You're kidding me. Wow. Those are my arm curls, those are warm-ups. And that's what I'm thinking, you've got to be joking. But he is literally a beast. I can't explain it. The man's a beast.
So interviewing people like that, do you take inspiration from what they do and put that into your own workouts? Do you still work out?
I did.
Do you have a routine?
He taught me a lot about training because the thing is, to me, it should be like a sponge. You don't want to turn and block yourself and say, this is get into a routine and you become stagnant. So I always like to experiment and take on. I listen to other people say, listen, what do you think about this? And change techniques. Because I think your body's always developing. As you get older, your body changes. So you can't do the same things you used to do when you were in your 20s or your 30s. So you have to find a different way to get those kind of results, And listening to Eddie, I learned a lot about eating at the right times because, they used to always say don't eat after 8 o'clock at night and stuff like that. But now I realized that my body, I don't eat carbs after 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Do you know what I mean? Because it does change the effect of my sleep pattern and my training pattern and stuff like that. And I learned all that from Eddie. He really does know his stuff when it comes to nutrition and healthy eating and timing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
like you say, you know Dave French, and he's you know, he's still benching stupid weight at. I don't even know how old he is, but
76.
Yeah, and that's just
got married
unbelievable.
yesterday.
Did he?
Yeah, he got married
wicked,
yesterday.
man. Oh, wicked. Yeah. So like, obviously, taking all that information from them, how has your training changed in the gym? Like talking to Eddie, talking to Dave, and then everyone else you've met, because obviously you've been taking on like everyone that you meet. Because obviously,
I've taken a bit from everyone. I think Dave has been the most. He's been the most influential in my life when it comes to weight training and stuff like that, conditioning training, because you know, you can say a lot about Dave French, but he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff when it comes to training. He knows his stuff when it comes to nutrition. And I remember I was living in Hong Kong, and back in, I think it was 1996, and there was this whole news broadcast about Princess Diana when she passed away, when she died. And then on Panorama that night, they had Dave French talking about steroids and taking steroids. And he was saying, steroids, we got to get through it. And that's why he lost all of his gyms back then. The thing about it, he's been taking steroids all of his life. And I always say to him, you know, I mean, they're going to dig you up in 1,000 years' time, you're going to still be exactly the same. You know, you're going to be preserved. But the fact is, he is incredible.
The maggots are going to have muscles around him.
Because he's still breaking records. He's got, for his age, he's got the heaviest deadlift and the heaviest bench press, I think, for his age group. So yeah, you got to give him credit. The man's still going strong. I train in the gym with Dave, obviously before lockdown. We train together, and he's blowing people out of the water. He'll train with me, then fully train with me. And somebody else will come in the gym, will train with them fully. And then his actual weight training partner will come in, and he'll train with that guy in a full routine. I'm thinking, how do you do that? You know what I mean? It's just incredible.
What does your training look like at the moment?
It's all indoors.
Or before lockdown? Let's go before lockdown, so you used to everything.
Yeah, before lockdown, I'll be training every single morning of day. So I get down there for about 7 o'clock in the morning. That's how I start my day. And as soon as I finish my workout, because he doesn't allow you to train for more than 30 minutes. And it's not because you can't, it's because he believes that's the most impact you get. Because he doesn't have any mirrors in the gym, he doesn't have any music in the gym. And he just turns around and says, right, we're going to blast it in it for 30 minutes, and I'm going to make you work for that 30 minutes, you know what I mean? We do one body part per day.
Oh, wicked.
And that way you sort of like, you really develop, you feel the benefits of it. And then I'd head to the studio. And that's what I was doing with Dave. But since the lockdown came into effect, it's just what I can work at home. I go for a run in the morning, I do my exercise, I got some weights, I do a little bit in the house or whatever.
Keep the
and I get Dave calling up and saying, you pussy. So he's serious.
Yeah.
Because he wants to push me. But every time I'm going for a movie, I go to Dave. And I get myself conditioned, depending on what the role is, you know, because he's my go-to guy.
Have you ever had to make any radical changes to what you look like?
Yeah, I had to
lose a lot of weight.
I went up to 18.5 stone before for a film project, and that was tough because it was hard for me to carry that kind of weight and get used to moving. And that was a tough one. But my average weight is around about 15.5, 16 stone. I'm up to 18.5 stone to do that.
You look 18.5 stone, isn't it?
That's the thing. It's solid.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say it, because actually it just shows actually that continuous training, that continuous just turning up every day from 16 to however old you are now, 21. Look at 21.
Oh, thank you.
But you know, it's just it's testament to your actual training ability, and I think that's what a lot of people forget, and I think that's what I want people to take from the podcast is actually, you know, it's actually the people that are interviewing these. You're like top actor, you're a top martial artist, and you know, you're it's actually consistency. So I'm not trying to lie to anyone. We're not trying to sell them anything. We're just saying turn up every damn day, and it shows testament at 56.
Find something you enjoy doing, and so it's a lifetime, you know.
Exactly, and that's what I always say to people. You know, the thing about it is so there's a lot of fads that come up and people start getting into it and they buy all the equipment. And I must admit, I was dating this girl from Finland, and she took me out to Finland to go skiing. And I went out and I bought all the gear, bought the ski kit. I still got it in my mouth now. I bought all the gear, all the bit.
Brand new.
Yeah, all the brand new. So you want to buy something? Go do this. Yeah. And we landed in Finland, came out of Helsinki airport, and it was like seeing that Cool Runnings. What am I doing? What am I thinking about? I called me in. I was like, wait, get back.
Ain't no snow in Jamaica, baby.
I got on the sleeve sleeve, but she finished me at the end of it.
There's nothing but support.
We got on the ski slope, so I swear to God, Michael, I went from about that mirror to maybe that that bar over that bench over there. I took them off and I went back in the cabin and I was like drinking that red hot wine all the next 3 days. That's what I did. I was like, you guys have a good time.
Those white people out there crazy.
The thing ain't got no brakes either. You know? I was like, nah. I swear to you, right now, if you go to my loft, it's all in there.
Pristine condition.
It's about 10 years old, pristine condition.
Honestly.
But like, no, for me, as I said, training has been part of my life. And it's taught me discipline, it's taught me commitment. And you have to be consistent, you have to be. Because I think to myself, I'm healthier now. I've seen guys of my own age I went to school with, and I'm like, really? I can't recognize them. I'm not trying to be big, but I see them all like, I'm thinking, no, I can't be that. I can't be that man. You know what I mean? I want to keep going. And that's why I look at Dave at 76 years old and he's able to do what he's doing. I'm thinking, yeah, that's what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know if you follow him or have heard of him. The Charles Douglas, is it? He's an American bodybuilding trainer.
Yeah.
He must be about 70 now, but he's in incredible shape, training all these Mr. Olympians.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And I follow him, and he's, like he just said, just consistency as well. And
it's consistency. I watch, we've been doing interviews obviously with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold and these guys still working out. They don't do it as intensely. Sylvester Stallone, he works out like an animal. Do you know what I mean? To this day. And there's a man who's 72. So this is to show you, you know what I mean? You can, if you really turn around and focus and you turn around and you sort of set yourself something you, like you say, you love doing, it doesn't become a chore. It becomes something that that's like I said, if you find a job that you love doing, it's not work. And if you find something you love doing, like training, exercising, it's not hardship. It's a part of your daily life, and that's how I feel about it.
What you just touched on interviewing Arnold and Sylvester, are you allowed to expand on that?
But basically what it is, the project is about when Eddie, it's actually called When Eddie Met Arnold. And what it is that Eddie Hall has always been Arnold has always been Eddie's inspiration. He's always looked up to him. And it's funny because they both had very similar lives growing up. They're sort of very mirror image in a lot of things. And so what it is that Eddie's transitioning, he wants to become an actor. And the mental health that he's had to go through in transitioning, he got to let go of that whole ego thing about, I'm the world's strongest man, pumping weights, and then all of a sudden, you think yourself, I've got to deplete because I've got to turn around and be good for the screen now and all that kind of stuff. And the mental torture that it's taken and the suffering that he's going to go through. So he goes to start to talk to Arnold, and Arnold is a massive fan of Eddie Hall's, because they're now just joined partnership now because they're doing the Arnold Classics here in the UK. And so Arnold was like, I'm happy to do that. So when Eddie called me up and said, I'm going to do this, and he goes, and Arnold's agreed to be in there, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. I'll be the executive producer on it. That's a win-win. And then from there,
and
then from there, I started saying to myself, well, I wonder who else has been on that journey. And then I started thinking, well, Jason Statham, he used to be a diver. And then he became a big actor. And then he had Dwayne Johnson, a wrestler, American football player. Now he's an actor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm thinking,
like the biggest
name,
highest paid actor at the moment.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you start thinking to yourself, well, I wonder who else has got a story to tell about the mental torture or the discipline you have to go through. And then before you knew it, it was like all these guys were sort of, and it's because of Eddie's magnetism, because they all admire him. It's just amazing. I saw Sylvester Stallone around Eddie. It's like a little kid. Oh my God!
Yeah. I still remember Arnold's face when Eddie pulled that 500. He was clapping. He was the biggest fan on that stage, and there was like 10,000 people there, and Arnold was the biggest fan.
The most excited person in the room.
It's just truth, because the thing is, I've been in a room whereby you see these guys turn up and the crowds are going nuts and whatever, and then Eddie walks in, and then it's these guys going nuts over Eddie.
It's because, do you think the difference is that those guys know how fucking hard that is?
It's a mutual respect of how hard it is.
They
understand. They know how hard that is.
It is, because we film it. We filmed the scene, so we actually got some fake weights in, and we're going to reconstruct it in the gymnasium it has in Stoke-on-Trent. And we had a fake setup, so it's like literally a quarter of the weight. And I bent down to try and move it, and I couldn't even move it. So to understand what he had to put his body through to do that, it's just.
That wasn't a parody of Thor's lift, was it?
I'll tell you something, right? And that's the thing about Eddie. We had these weights specially made, so it looked like he was lifting the same weight. We wanted to reconstruct it in the gym, And he didn't want to do that. He goes, no, I want to lift it. I want to go for the real thing. I was like, you can't put your... And he goes, yeah, well, I want to make it at least look realistic. And so we're going to put as much weight on there. Because he doesn't want to fake anything. He's real. I'm not kidding you. Eddie Hall is the real deal. And I said that to him. Because I've seen what he can eat, I've seen what he can bench press, what he can squat. I've seen he can push 10 men out of a car, 4 across the road. So, no joke. And the thing is, he's been tested. I can't remember what they said it is now, but apparently his heart and his liver or something has got some sort of, this is what you find in the bull. So I don't
know if it might be he's got a special gene as well. His muscle builds quicker as well.
And they said they only find it in bulls. So
I have heard that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, apparently he went tested by some genealogist.
It's all those steaks he's eating. He's become 95% full.
Do you know what? It's so funny because we went to Switzerland because that's where the investors are based in Switzerland, and we're in a place called Basel. We landed, we got there. And we've gone to this guy's favorite eating place, and there's a lot of grassland. And there's the cows, these beautiful cows, and people actually travel to come and see.
And they wear bells as well, don't they?
You know what I mean? And beautiful, the coats of these cows are just like amazing. And so I'm taking these pictures of these cows. Then Eddie gets out of the car, and starts to walk across to come and see the cows. The cows turn around and start walking around. It's like they knew. People actually come down. It's like a tourist thing. People come down to take pictures with the cow. And as soon as Eddie started to walk away, these cows started walking away.
Not today, Eddie.
That's like when dogs cower away from wolves.
Yeah. They just know. They just saw them. It's like, I said, they know you're going to... You don't want to take pictures. You see lunch.
What's your favourite exercise then? Obviously, Eddie's has got to be the deadlift. Have you got a favourite
bench press. My exercise has always been bench press. For many years, I was that guy who only ever trained the upper half of his body.
Yeah, bench and biceps.
So like, as soon as I had these little skinny legs walking along like this, for many years. And then Dave would like, nah, you go. And because the thing is, I used to think to myself, it restricted me with my stretching and my kicking. And again, like I said, it's just true to lack of education, because once I started talking and working with the right people, I realized that, I can pump those weights and still keep flexible if I do the right type of training. So that's it now. But for years, it was just, that part works, just don't look down there.
And have you got a favourite move except from the roundhouse kick?
Do you have a favourite martial art? Was it the Muay Thai, or was it Muay Thai you did?
No, Muay Thai is what I did. I'd say for me, it was the Muay Thai. The Kung Fu was my tradition. That's my ground. That's my foundation. But fighting and competing was definitely the Muay Thai. So I do love the Jiu-Jitsu. I always felt like you got to get on the ground to do it. Do you know what I mean? If that makes any sense. I was like, I don't want to get down there. I'm of that old mindset that I don't want to be in a 50-50 situation with you. I want to take my advantage. I want to take my chances. Especially when you're in
even if it's just role play.
It's role play. It's just role play job. I want the advantage. So I'm like, I want to be standing up on my feet. I want to make those kind of moves. I feel more comfortable standing up.
You're massively over average height, so you're going to have a big presence. I saw you were walking in, I was like, damn.
It's nice to get in the ring.
What's the weather like up there?
I remember I fought this guy, that's how I got the detached retina. I fought this guy in Holland. And I remember, we had that British attitude of like, hi, my name's Winston, nice to meet you. Motherfucker, I'm going to kick your ass. And I was like, okay, all right. And that was the attitude that they have.
Yeah.
And so basically, I had to get myself into that. I used to always have to wait until I get kind of hit first a couple of times, and then I get in the fight. And I had to change that whole attitude because I was thinking, this is starting to look different now.
Not the money maker.
The funny thing about it is now, after all these years, I've been able to double for Idris, you know what I mean? And he's a really good friend of mine. And I remember when he got voted, because the Vanity Fair came out, he got voted the sexiest man on the planet. And he's called me like, I can just vote the sexiest man on the planet. I'm like, but everybody says you like me.
Exactly. Wicked. Moving on from there, who do you look to for inspiration? I know we've touched on a lot of people. Is there anyone you kind of like go, I wish I could kind of, that was a wicked scene, I wish I could be part of that? Or is there any sort of like big scenes like that you fancy like being a part of, or you look to and like, I want to recreate that? Now you're obviously, or you've been producing, is there something you like, let's get that into my scene and I'm going to take parts of that? Who is doing that for you at the moment?
The thing about it is there's a lot of, I think I would like to take, I'm kind of like old school. And if I'm to be honest, I'd like to get away from the CGI stuff.
Yeah.
And go back to the old traditional way of film where you saw real action, real acting, and that kind of stuff. Because I think the CGI stuff has gone a little bit.
Too
You watch
CGI.
those Fast and the Furious films, the first couple of Fast and Furious movies, you think, yeah, great, fantastic. But then you see the last one, you think, from the cousin tree flying through
And,
the air, like, come on.
And I don't want to put him down because I love The Rock, but that Rampage film, the CGI was just like it was
like watching
too
a
much.
cartoon.
Yeah,
It's like watching a
just
cartoon.
too much for me.
Yeah, and that to me has just gone a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's not particular. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I'd like to recreate. But there's actors that I'd love to work with, and films that I'd like to remake. You know what I mean? Because I see myself now with what I know now. I think we can make that film a whole lot better. But then sometimes they say, you know what, why reinvent the wheel? You know?
Yeah.
So just leave it the way it is because that's what it's a classic. You know?
Have you got a favourite film? Are you a film man yourself, or are you just?
Yeah, you know, one of the films that I consider to be one of my favourites is Scarface.
Yeah, I love that. Who doesn't love that?
I was there when it was filmed. That's when I was fighting in the US Open.
Yeah.
That's when I was out there in Miami and filming it. And there's a scene where you see, I don't know the actress's name, which is coming down the glass lift. And there's a big crowd across the room. I'm in that crowd watching them film that scene. You know what I mean? And that was my first experience of movie business. But I was not in the movie business. I was an 18-year-old kid watching them film this movie. You know what I mean?
So he wasn't bringing in all the bags of cocaine.
In fact, that scene where he saws the guy in the shower.
Yeah, the Colombians.
The Colombians. You know, that stretch of beach right
I
there.
stayed there as well, yeah.
That's where I was.
On Ocean Drive.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
I stayed in a place called Coral Gables.
I stayed I can't remember what it's called. It's on the corner. See, as you see the Cadillac come down, and then it turns the corner. I stayed on the one in the corner there.
I used to train on that beach every day because I stayed in a certain place called Coral Gables, and we used to come down to train in that beach, train on the beach, and then we go to the gym which is on South Dixie Highway and teach martial arts, and that's what I was doing for 3 years.
Wow.
Did you live in America then?
I lived there for 3 years. My father lives in New York. I lived in Miami for 3 years. Came back here when I was 21 and I opened up the gyms there. And then I moved to Hong Kong when I was nearly 31 and I stayed there for 10 years.
Where's your favourite place to live?
So far, it's been Hong Kong, 10 years in Hong Kong.
I thought you was going to say Reading.
Reading is my home. That's my home. That's my base. That's where my family's at. That's where I don't want to live in places like LA or those kind of stuff or London. I live where it keeps me grounded. These guys that keep me grounded, family, they keep me grounded. I go around the house, it's like, Winston, put a kettle on. It's like, I'm a star. I'm around here, you ain't. You know what I mean? So I like coming back home. That's what I mean.
But Hong Kong is a nice
Hong Kong's
nice
one
place.
of the best places I've ever lived, and it's true because 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can get whatever you want. You can get whatever you want. You want to buy a suit, you go into a tailor shop and just stand there and the guy just fit you with a suit. Armani suit and have it tailored, you know what I mean, and you're ready to go. And you just go to the next place. It was one of them kind of places that never closed, and I love that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what we need around here, the big boys, tailored fitted suits.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you always look good because you go into a shop and you turn and say, I want to have you take a picture. I'd take a picture. I used to walk outside, I see something in the magazine, I like that. I walk into a tailor's and be like, can you make that? Yeah, no problem, we make that, no problem, I'm coming in. Next thing you do, you're wearing it, thinking, yeah, that's pretty good. Well, come on, you pay half the price, you know what I mean?
What's the food like in the best place you've ever eaten around the world, and where and Hong Kong? Obviously, you've probably got some nice food there too.
Hong Kong was great, but one of my, I'll tell you, Jackie introduced me some delicacies that I don't even want to mention. But Singapore was one of the best places for me. You know, Singapore, Malaysia, the food was just incredible. You know? And when we did the quest, we spent 6 months in Thailand, and we were eating fresh fish. It's the healthiest I've ever been.
Is it easy to stick on diet then out there?
Yeah, I was on because we had 16 of the world's greatest best fighters on that film set.
Wow.
And these guys are, they're the real deal. They weren't actors. They were the real deal. And there's some egos, you know what I mean? And so basically, I was eating fresh fish and vegetables every single day.
Wicked.
It was just amazing.
Have you had to sort anyone out with an ego in your time around?
That's happened. I had a little run with Mr. Seagal years ago.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and that was a long time ago now though. But as I said, I don't back down from anybody. And it's just one of them things, you know what I mean? But it's for me, as far as I'm concerned, you respect me, I respect you. You know what I mean? But if it's going to happen, you're not leaving me. You're going to remember.
Someone's going to die.
You're going to remember me. You may win, but you're going to remember me. You're never going to forget me. Every time you look in the mirror, you say, "How fucking did this to me?"
Like your detached retina, you're still like, nah.
Yeah.
I have read he's not the easiest to get on.
Listen, that man is hard work. That's what I'm going to say. It's hard work.
How would you say you are as like a person being on set? Are you quite laid back, or are you?
As an actor, I have been very demanding. Since I became a producer, I now respect because I used to give producers a hard time as an actor. I don't do that anymore now because I realise that it's not easy being a producer because the buck stops with you. And even the cleaner's going to be shouting at you, I want to get paid, I want that. Everybody's at you at the same time. And I remember when I was as an actor, it was always a case of, I want first class travel, I need a driver to pick me up, I want this on my phone, my lunch, I need to have somewhere I can train, and I want my pros and cons. Now when I'm as a producer, and people are saying that to me, like, that's my budget going there, so I realise I'm doing this.
What's Michael J. White like? Have you met him? Have you worked with him?
Yeah, we worked together on Batman with Heath Ledger. I did that, and I just got put in the Hall of Fame, the HBO Hall of Fame last year. I was in New York, and he was in the Hall of Fame as well, so we both got put in the Hall of Fame at the same time, so I got to see him again. Michael J. is a lovely guy, and he's the real deal. He is the real deal. He's not a guy to mess around with, believe me. And he's a very proud man as well, so when you're working with Michael, you got to be on point.
And what was it like working with Heath Ledger? What was,
You know what? I'll tell you something, it's the one thing that always chokes me up. I'm not going to lie about it, because I met Heath, and he was, I remember when I walked onto the Batman set, I'd just flown back from the Bahamas. And when I got back here, we were shooting in London. And he was doing this, that coin trick you put on, you catch the coins. And he was stood over there, he was dressed as a Joker, and he was doing that coin trick. He had about 4 or 5 coins, and he was just like messing around. I was looking at him, I walked over and go, listen, let me show you. And I put like about 10 coins in it, and I caught them. And so he was like, okay, do that again. And that's how we started talking. And I started showing him a couple of card tricks that I knew, and we started talking like that. And then I realized that, he's only like 2 years older than my son. And so it was fantastic. We really made a connection. And so for the week that I was filming with him, it was me and him every break. It was me and him talking about tricks and talking about stuff and talking about our kids and stuff. And so we'd arranged to meet in New York. And it was going to be about 3 or 4 weeks later. And I remember I got to the airport, at Heathrow Airport here. I was literally going through to go check in. And I got a phone call from an Australian radio station. Winston, I want to interview you. How do you feel about the death of Heath Ledger? And I'm like, what do you mean he's dead? He's not dead. He can't be dead. I'm just going to meet the guy with me in New York now. Well, he's dead. And that was how I found out.
Oh, no.
It was just heartbreaking, believe me. Absolutely heartbreaking.
Do you think everyone says he went like really deep into character? Did you see that on set?
The character had nothing to do with his death, but he was great. He knew how. I saw him switch. He'd be like just like this right now, and then Christopher Nolan would say, "Okay, ready," and he'd be like, "Whoa." He was a different person. You know what I mean? There's that scene whereby he looks down to me and he goes, "Why so serious?" As he goes to cut my boss's throat, cut Michael J's throat. You know what I mean? And that was ad-lib. That was completely ad-lib. And it's because we've built this relationship up that he wanted to do that. But I remember when he did that scene the first time, Christopher Nolan said, "Winston, stop staring at him." And I was like, he goes, "Come on, you gotta look more." And I'm like, "But seriously," because you're really just lost in that moment.
Yeah.
He was like, as soon as he looked down, he was like, he did that scene. I was like, Jesus, I'm really quite scared of this guy.
Scary.
It was very intense, very, very intense.
Have you obviously there since then we've had, I forget the other guy's name who played the Joker.
Not
the latest one, the one in between in Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
So his portrayal was very, very different, to Heath's.
Yeah.
But the latest one with Joaquin Phoenix, is it Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah. Phoenix.
I felt was a bit closer.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix's character, I think he pulled out of the ballpark.
It was amazing. I thought that was a brilliant film.
Yeah,
I watched it like 3 times.
It was a standalone film as well. You didn't have to know anything.
It's one of those, like you said, standalone movies. I think Jack Nicholson was the one that turned around and did it first. You know, he really sort of like set the benchmark for the Joker. And nobody thought that anybody ever would do it any better than him. But then when Heath Ledger came out, he put a completely different dimension. He brought a different kind of feel to the character. And it was like really dark. But what he did, I thought myself, was just like he did out of the ballpark.
It's a big role to take on.
Yeah, it's a big role. It's a frightening role. Because the thing is, whenever time somebody does something like that, and they make such an impact, as an actor, and you want to go and follow that, that's a massive steps to fall into. So I credit those guys for actually even challenging themselves to take on that role. Because when Jack Nicholson did it, everybody thought, this is the best thing since sliced bread. There's no way. And then when he came along and did what he did, it was like, well, we just moved the benchmark. But Joaquin, he just And it's all, the thing is, they all brought some different elements to that character. You know what I mean? It's a great role to play, I think.
What was Christian Bale like?
Yeah.
Moving on.
Christian Bale's a very nice guy. Love him to bits. Yeah, he's perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. Real professional.
So, let's have a quick touch on like mental health issues around film.
Yeah.
Do you think that, especially watching those sort of scenes, I know a couple, I think it was last year, that Blue story came out about London.
Yeah,
and they're like,
yeah.
oh, it's inciting violence. And, this did it, incited that. Do you ever think that, obviously it's never the proposition of the film to do that, but I don't know what I was trying to ask.
I know where you're going. I don't think that those things incite violence.
Yeah.
I think that basically what it is that the media and the government have turned around and for an excuse to turn and go and say, what we need is education. We have to go. This is the bottom line. I say this. I've spoken in the House of Parliament twice now, and I said we need to go back to the basics. We're going to go back to the schools and we need to educate our kids, because if you don't teach them all about history, then you can't be surprised what's going to happen. Because when I was at school growing up, I never knew any. I had no one to identify with. There was no role models. The only role models I had growing up were Muhammad Ali, which was called Cassius Clay back in the day, and Viv Richards, the cricketer. Do you know what I mean? And that was it. But when it was time to teaching you history, they would talk about Sir Francis Drake, Christopher Columbus, and all these kind of amazing people who've done these amazing things. And that was all I thought, but all these guys are white. So where are these role models for me to identify with as a kid?
Amazing things, as long as you're not like a native to where they
So you sat in a classroom, you're looking around, and you're thinking, right, okay, there's 3 black kids in this classroom, there's like 30 white kids, and all that they talk about all day long in these history lessons are these white people. So where do I fit in? And our parents back in them days, they used to be very strict and say, you know what, you have to fit in, you get good education, and they're beating you to fit in. And how do you fit into a society where you stand out so much?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I went to the Bahamas in my 40s, and they had Christopher Columbus Day, and everybody, all the white people are getting the celebrations going. They used to see the black people like, why would we celebrate the man that came over here, raped and pillaged and turned? And that's not there's a different side to this story. You know what I mean? Now, when they had all these recent rights and they're putting down the statues, I don't agree with that. I think the statues are part of history. They need to be in a museum so that our children can learn from them and learn what really took place and what these people represented. But by us becoming vigilantes now and putting a rope around and pulling it down, that's not right. You can't do it that way. You know what I mean? Because all you're doing is you're buying into what they're already calling you. So for me personally, that was never. I believe that the films, it's the media that turn around. The media has made our kids what they are. Because like Facebook and the social media, when it all came out, I was like, what? This can be a fantastic tool, but it can be a really dangerous weapon. Because the fact of the matter is, you've got young kids that anybody can go on Facebook. And in the beginning, anybody can say whatever they want to say on Facebook and post whatever they want to say. I remember people like Justin Timberlake turning around closing their accounts, and kids were like threatening to kill themselves because they thought he was blocking them off. And I've seen this firsthand.
So you think it's education to start with, at home and then at schools, and obviously social media, because obviously that's the most easily accessible way to look at things.
To be honest with you, I think there should be a license you should have for you to be able to go on social media, because there's some people that goes. I've got people in my age group, and they're waking up in the morning taking photographs of their breakfast, their dinner, their bedroom. What is that all about? Do you know what I mean? This is what I had to eat today.
You know what? The thing is as well, it's also fake. And I remember vividly this one time was that I was out with my girlfriend at I think it's a Penta Hotel in Reading, and it's 3 guys, and they was walking around the hotel going, take a picture of me here next to the nice bookshelf, and I'm going to send it to that girl. And they go, get a picture of me pretending this is my snooker table. And I was like, and they're actually saying it to each other. And then obviously you're creating this facade on Instagram, Facebook, and I think that you live in this like mansion house, whatever, and I'm like trying to sort of aspire to that,
and that's exactly it. And the thing is, what's happened is that with reality TV, it's made our children sort of like think that's real life. I want to be like.
I want to be a YouTuber now.
I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an influencer. Or I want to turn wear all that fake. I want to get my lips pumped up. I know this girl, right? She's like the same age as my daughter. Love her to bitch. She's a beautiful young girl. I bumped into her in town a couple of weeks, and I was like, what? It's like she's got two big wolf bangers on her face.
That's the best description ever.
I was like, what have you done? What is that? It's like a baboon that's like she's one of the baboons. She's trying to actually ask out here. You know what I mean?
I was watching a program last night, and there's a British actress in there, and she's obviously had.
Yeah.
But it's just like,
I don't get what they're doing now.
I was looking at her, this thing's probably a couple of years old, and I was just like, going through her mind, like, why did she do that? Because obviously she's on screen.
Exactly.
But she obviously thinks it looks good, or she has to look that way. But for me, I saw that straight away. I was just like, why has she done that? Like, she was a pretty girl before.
You know, the funniest
why
thing
did
for
he
me,
do that?
it's crazy. The
And then
funniest
to
thing for
be
me
an
is that
actress.
this guy that I know, I'm not going to mention his name, this is a local guy, and he's been known to be a bit of a racist, you know what I mean, going back in the day. And his wife, right, she's had a lot of fake lips done, big ass or whatever, like, see, you're a racist, you don't like black people, but you married this white woman and she wants to be black. She tans her skin, big fake lips, and the ass is out here, and I was like, you know.
Yeah.
What's the term?
Now you know what we're missing out on.
Yeah.
That's it. What would you say to, I guess, to any of our listeners or kids, adults that do look at social media and do watch films and do either take away bad points from a film or bad points from social media that maybe makes them feel down or depressed, or they're comparing themselves to an actor with this massive I know a lot of people always compare themselves to the actors when they've taken a long time to get into shape, and what's his name that's in Baywatch, the young fella, Shredded. I want to look like him, but he's been paid million to do that and look like that. You're getting paid your job to go to your job, and actually you're never going to look like him because he's got serious good genetics.
Exactly. The thing is that one thing I would say to people is the fact that you have to remember that we're all individuals and we can't all follow the same pattern. What your workout routine is going to be different from your workout routine. It's going to be different from yours. It's going to be different from mine. Our bodies, we can do the same exercise and all four of us get completely different effects from it. And one of the things I always say to young people when they come and when they talk to me, I always say, listen, find your own identity. Look, absorb, digest, but then get rid of the crap. Do you know what I mean? And don't just take it all in and think, I've got to do this, I've got to be a part of that, I've got to I've got to fit in. Don't be afraid to be an individual. Do you know what I mean? Because for years I tried to fit in and it was never going to work. The minute I turned around and said, you know what? I want to go around, I want to be me. I want to turn around and do what makes me happy. Not what makes everybody else happy. What makes me happy. And you know what it's like for me back in the day. A lot of people turn around like, who the hell do you think you are? You're from Reading. You know what I mean? You're never going to turn around and be Mr. Hollywood. You're never going to do this. You're never going to, you know what it's like for me back in the day. People would always turn around ragging me. I'm like, you know what? This is my journey. And until you start paying my bills and start putting food on my table, this is my journey. And now these same people have come back, oh, Winston, man, remember that day we used to hang out together? No. Something, you know what I mean? I've had people call me up and send me a message on Facebook, people from Reading. Yeah, listen, I've got bills to pay, mate. You can't have some money now. And I'm like, what? Who do you think I am? But that's what I'm saying.
Do you think a lot of people in a philosophy way look but don't actually see?
Yeah.
They're looking at these people but don't actually see the hard work. They don't see the graft. They don't see the early starts. Like you say, you're getting up every day to train. They don't see you've taken the shit from when you're a kid, from you're 18, you're fucking detached retina. You've taken the shit, but it's only the shit of the 20 years actually that's made you into the person you are today.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I'm just like anybody else. When you see me post on my social media, you won't see me post about religion, you won't see me post about politics, anything like that. But when you see me post on, it's all the positive things that are going on in my life, whether it be my grandchildren, my work, or whatever. But that's what's going on behind closed doors. Yeah. That's what you see. It's like there's monsters all running around, there's demons there. Because I have to fight that. I have to
and that's just the kids.
That's just the kids. But it is, at the end of the day, don't get caught up in. My recommendation to people would be, don't just get caught up in because we grew up without social media. When I was growing up, we didn't have that, and so we still can make. I did this without social media. I created my lifestyle without social media. I didn't know what. I remember when I talk to my daughter now, and we went to I remember she was like 14 or 15, I think it was, and we were going to the museum in London with a friend. And we pulled up outside the Natural History Museum, pulled up Park Rank, and walking down the road. They're looking at a phone box, red phone box. Yeah. Like, wow, that's amazing. That's And she goes, "What? Everybody uses this?" He goes, "How hygienic is that?" Because they can't understand the mentality behind it. You know what I mean? But for me, it's like you say, it's a case of be an individual and don't just follow the crowds and don't allow social media to hypnotize you into thinking that's reality, because it's not. It's not reality. This is what somebody wants you to believe is their reality. Like you say, you know, that's not their pool table. That's just something that's faking. You know what I mean? So be your own, and that's it. Find your own identity.
I saw a good meme this morning, and it said, unpopular opinion. It's okay to go through life not achieving a grand achievement,
Right.
but just finding interest in interesting things.
Exactly.
You know, like a lot of people look to others and think, oh, you know, like I don't feel good enough because I'm not achieving that, or I'm not doing that, or I haven't lived that, I haven't reached that. But actually, it's okay just to have lots of different interests.
You don't measure yourself by another man's standards or by another man's achievements. You know what I mean?
Too busy looking and not enough living.
That's it. Because the thing is, you don't know what that person had to do to get there. You know what I mean? Because I know actors that turn around and bend over and tape and then turn and say, "Listen, I'm not gay, but I'll do this because I want to be famous." I'm like,
what's been your biggest struggle then, going through obviously back in the day, like obviously being the only black person in school, or a couple of people, and then
I remember when I was in Hong Kong, I was treated like a king. You know what I mean? Once I got in a movie game, I could go anywhere. I was doing 2-3 films a year, and everybody knew who I was. And when I came back to England, it's like nobody knew who the hell I was. I remember going for my first Coca-Cola commercial, and there's like 50 other black guys in this room look just like me. And I was like, damn, this is not what I'm used to, you know what I mean? I went for the BBC, I went for a job on the BBC to try and do an acting job, and it was in EastEnders. And they were like, well, there's no main characters for black people in this. And I'm thinking, really? I said, the worst thing that's ever happened to me, I have to admit, I got a phone call from the BBC about 3 years ago. And they were like, we'd like to have a comment from you, Winston. It's the first, after 60 years of filming Coronation Streets, they now introduced the first black family. You know, how do you feel about that? And I was like, it's like, seriously. I think the question's insulting.
Yeah.
Because we've been here for a hell of a long time. You guys are only just noticing us now.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake, you want to ask me a stupid question like that? Because as far as I'm concerned, you know what I mean? You know, the first black family in 60 years, and you want to make news about it. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's enough black guys playing for
To be fair, you should be ashamed of yourself for watching that shit anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So for me, it's a case of like, I tell people, try and find your own. Don't be afraid, because with the technology that young people have these days, they can make their own moves, they can do their own stuff. You know
with yourself being black, obviously, but born in Reading, is there anything that you would say to like other black people to say like, you know, to like give them motivation and not to
get off that bandwagon, man?
Yeah,
because the thing is, get off that. I think, and a lot of people would disagree with me, but I think there's a lot of guys in Reading that I grew up with that carry a chip, and they've been carrying that chip for a long time. You gotta let go of that, man, because the thing, you got one life to live, and it's what you do with it that counts. And if you sit there and think about what happened in some other foreign country and try and make it your own problem, that's a waste of time. Because a lot of guys walk around and think, it's like my father, man, when they see people with the guys walk around wearing jeans, you know what the old man is like. My dad's always dressed immaculately. He would never wear denim.
Our dad never owned jeans.
He would never wear jeans. And I was like, why don't you wear denim? He goes, prisoners wear denim. You know what I mean? That's the truth. Back in the day, it was only prisoners that wore denim. Do you know what I mean? So that's the kind of mentality. And then when they wear their trousers all the way down here, he goes, well, that's like an advert in a prison. You know, that shows that you're a bitch in prison. You know what I mean? So why would you want to do that? You know what I mean? The guys that wear their trousers down there means you're accessible. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's like, follow your own identity, make your own. Don't just follow the crowd, you know? So that's it. Definitely. I know people that are walking around today with tattoos, these Chinese symbols, and Chinese guys in Hong Kong fuck with them. They're like, it says hope. That's what it says. It says, prosperity, man. Trust me, prick.
So basically, just be yourself and own it, man. Like,
own yourself. That's what I mean. At the end of the day, if you're ashamed of being who you are, you've already lost the game.
So obviously you said like that chip on the shoulder. Do you think that's a big problem at the moment? Is
I
it something
think
you
it is.
see?
I think what I find is, if you notice the riots that went on just recently in London, whatever, they're all young kids. There's nobody of my age group or Michael's age group out there doing it.
Now Patrick was picking the people out of the crowd.
Patrick's about most
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And he was stopping me.
That's right. Because it's young kids, and it's young kids that they're trying thinking, okay, this is racist, but they don't understand it. They don't know the history. They haven't been in school whereby they've been taught. Because if you turn and sit down and you have a Chinese kid, an Asian kid, a black kid, a white kid, and you sit on a Mexican, you sit them all in the classroom, and you teach them real history, the truth, you're gonna get 5 kids who are going to learn to live with each other.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I was talking to Mike once about history, and he goes, "Man, you're more black than me." Because I was looking it all up, and I was like, "Man, like the stuff that's gone on, it's just like
exactly."
And
that's what I'm saying.
It's always like I hate it when, like, especially white guys, middle class, whatever, the foreigners and that. Actually, we colonised half of the world, yet we're saying keep the foreigners out. I just don't understand it.
I had an MP, a very famous MP, and this happened like 3 weeks ago. Phoned me up, and I'm doing this talk. I'm going to do this talk with Anthony Joshua.
Oh, okay.
And this MP turned and goes, "Oh, Winston, so surprised you're going to do this and that." He goes, "I've got this friend called Clive. He lives in Reading. Do you know him?"
No, he didn't.
Think about it. He didn't know the guy, but that's not the point. I knew he was talking about. That's not the point. You know what I mean? He's like, just because some place like, yeah.
You didn't just give it.
No, but I was just like, seriously, I can't believe that. And the thing about it with this guy, he was like, how do you feel about Black History Month? And I was like, well, I don't think there should be a month. I think Black history should be right way through. And he was like, I just don't understand the dynamics of Black History Month. What is it all about? I'm like, hold on a minute. You're an MP. I'm actually going to give it away. You're an MP for one of the biggest constituency, what has the most ethnic, Black, Asian people in it. And you don't know about your own constituents. You don't know their history. What does that tell you?
Do you think people are too afraid to look it up sometimes?
Yeah, people are scared.
Just go on damn Google. Literally, I went on Google and I just typed in like the stuff I wanted to know and learn about, like especially like the Caribbean roots and that sort of stuff, and understanding all that sort of jazz. Because like we listen to reggae, we listen to like roots, and like I want to understand. I want to see where that comes from.
Right. He's more black than me.
But do you think people are too afraid to open themselves up to understanding what we've done?
Even black in my own family, my own brothers, I've had this discussion whereby they don't teach their kids about race or slavery and stuff. Well, and I'm like, you have to. That's part of history. And it's not like you're not building a monster. You're not building somebody you want the people to understand. And the thing is, if you're afraid of the past.
Do you think they're scared that it will then increase, maybe rather than understanding what has happened, it would then increase maybe hatred?
There is that fear, but I think it's all down to education and how you're told and how you present this and show this is what would happen, but here's where we are now. You have to follow the story. If you just try and leave that there and say, look, then it's like social media, just leave it, you just throw something out there. And of course, kids are taking what they want to take in, but if you educate them, because when I was growing up, when the TV series came out and I was like 14, it was Roots. Yeah. And I remember the first time watching Roots. And I went back to school, and the first person that called me my surname, I was like, he was like, no, you don't call me by my surname. My name's Winston. Don't call me no Ellis. Because the thing about it is, when you just watch that and you have no guidance, it just becomes this hatred and this anger inside of you, because you think, this is what they did? This is how they made it? But then when you have someone that sort of like educates you and teaches you, this is how it was, and this is what happened, and this is how it changed, and this is who changed it. And here's the people that put President Lincoln and Frederick who turned around and made these differences and stood up. It makes you understand that there's other people out there. There's another way of dealing with this. Yeah. Muhammad Ali stood. I got asked a question on a TV interview the other week. If I could have dinner with 3 people, alive or dead, who would they be? And I was like, Nelson Mandela, Muhammad Ali, and Sidney Poitier. You know what I mean? 3 men who stood up against everything.
And the thing I love about Mandela, he spent years in prison knowing he was going to come out and change lives. Yet some people won't even get out their fucking front door to change their own life.
Exactly.
Like, he stayed in prison, read every damn day and changed his life.
You imagine what it's like to be locked up. I've been to Ellis Island.
No social media, no PlayStation.
That's it. You imagine what it's like. I've been to Ellis Island. I've been to that cell. I've been there, I've seen it.
There's a solitary there.
Yeah,
he was on his own, wasn't
he? You can literally do this, you know what I mean? And touch the walls on the sides, and it's a bit longer that way, but this way it's like that. I'm thinking, 30 years in this place, and you come out and you embrace white people. That tells you something about the man. Do you know what I mean? You locked me up for 30 minutes. I want to kill you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I was reading about it. He knew he was going to come out and do it.
And that's
the
the
thing.
point.
He's like you said. You told your friends, "I'm going to be in Hollywood. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to do this." And you did it. He was telling people, "I'm going to come out. I'm going to change the way we see us."
And that's the truth. That's what he
See
did.
them, us,
and that's
we.
the reason why I admire people like that. And the thing is, at the end of the day, he could have come out. He had every right in the world to come out and be a bitter man.
Or he could have just killed himself in prison.
Yeah,
I mean,
or
he could
killed
just
himself.
let himself die,
But he knew. And that's the thing. You have to admire people like that. And that's the kind of thing that we have to. When you turn around and start educating kids about the past, you have to turn and bring these elements so they can turn and see the balance. And they don't just become hatred and consent, whatever. They feel like, okay, this guy did it this way. This is how he handled it. So let me use that as a role model in my life, rather than just turn around and throw that bit of information in and say, yeah, I'm worried about them turning on and conflicts now.
Yeah, people are too busy trying to win a war, when actually they could just. Sometimes it's best to just walk away, and actually walking away is the win. Sometimes
walking away is the win. I mean, the amount of times that I've been confronted by people who walk down the street and people say, "Yeah, I saw you fight that guy in that movie. I don't think you could do it. Come on, let's have a go."
No.
For real.
People say that.
Yeah. I'm like, don't let this fool you.
Here's an education.
Acting was my career choice, but I'm born fighter. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Perfect. So, is there any sort of quotes that you live and or train by?
I remember you saying one earlier on.
Yeah, that's it.
Picked up on
The thing is, as I said, see, I made me forget it now. That's why Michael Caine is preparing to fail.
Yeah,
and that's
love that
something I live by. And I also, I'm off this style of God, leave your ego here. Because as far as I'm concerned, when I'm on a film set and as a producer, I like there to be a real comfortable environment, a real family environment. Yes, I am the boss and the work starts with me, but I don't throw that, because as far as I'm concerned, my dad always told me, why buy a dog and bark yourself? If you've got somebody you've hired as a cameraman, and a director and a makeup artist, and you've chosen correctly, you can afford to let these people do their job.
That's a great saying. I love that.
Yeah, so why buy a dog and bark yourself? So I don't want to be there in everybody's business. And as far as I'm concerned, once I've got you on board, do your job. And I'll notice if you're not, and that's when you'll hear me. But until that day, just do your job. I'm going to get along fine. That was it.
Awesome. You got any questions before we wrap up?
Future goals?
You know what? I think whatever I do, I always want to achieve. I always want to get to the top. I always want to get to the top. And being inducted into the Martial Arts Hall of Fame last year, and then just recently being voted as one of the, because there's a book now they have with all the greatest martial artists that ever lived, and I got inducted into that just recently, last couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And so it's like, that's been great for me. I think for me, the pinnacle now would be to turn around and achieve a massive goal in the production world, to turn around doing something like the movie Let No Man Know Us, They Like Boxers, or the Eddie Hall that turn and get an Oscar and an award. And that would be my goal. Like, you know what I mean? Because I've got that competitive instinct in me that I want to be. If I'm not, I just don't want to be just good. I want to be the best I can be.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously martial arts had a massive part of your life.
Oh yeah.
Would you ever then think of passing that on to others and teach?
Yes, I taught for many, many years, and I still teach now privately. I teach certain people privately, but for me to actually commit my life back to it again, because the thing is, if I'm going to do it, I've got to do it 100%. I can't do it bit by bit. I can't do it little. And so I will teach my kids, my grandkids, because my little grandson, especially the middle one, Bailey, he's like a clone of me. You know what I mean? From the age of 2 years, I got videos when he was 2 years old, and he's watching me on TV, and he starts kicking his older brother. I'll tell you a funny story about that, right? It's not funny. I shouldn't even laugh because it's not funny. But my son, it was at Christmas just gone, and the kids that my son bought these there's like a little cameras you put in the wall, on the wall, and looks like a little pixie. So Santa Claus is watching to behave. So my older grandson comes in, and he sees the cameras, like, oh my God, I've got to be really good because Santa's watching. He's clearing up the house and doing all that kind of stuff. And the middle one comes in, he looks at it. And he looks at his dad, and he's like, you put that there. And he's only 5, he goes, you put that there. And he's like, no, I didn't. That's Santa. Santa, he goes, all right, fair enough. Left it. About bedtime, it's near 8 o'clock at night. He comes walking up to his dad, and he goes, went into the dustbin outside. Grabbed a package that came and he goes, you see, I told you. He goes, you just can't fool him. And that's that kind of attitude that I used to have. I always grew up with that thing of, you tell me something, I'm not just going to believe it. You know what I mean? I have to You have to show it to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I try and get people to understand. Don't just take in what everybody's telling you.
Believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see.
There you go. That's it. Couldn't say it better myself. That's it.
Wicked. Thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything you want to add? Is there anything you want to plug? You've got a few things coming out. Do you think you're allowed to let us into?
Yeah, well, look out for me in James Bond movie. I've got a nice little cameo. It's not a big part, it's a nice little cameo, but it's going to lead on to something else. Can't say too much about that.
Yeah.
And look out for The Beast when that comes out, because I think that's my first feature-length documentary. It's the first thing I've ever done as a producer, and it's one of the most expensive documentaries ever made.
Excellent.
One of the talents involved in it, and I think it's going to turn around. And when you hear these guys, these big stars, and they talk about their journeys, I think it's going to help a lot of people. I think a lot of people will be like, "Wow, really? That's what it's like." That's what it's not. It's not just a case of one day they became these big movie stars.
Yeah.
There's a real story behind every single one of them.
Yeah, man. This is what we're trying to do on the podcast: is get the stories out.
Yeah.
And I think you've smashed it today, man. I think we'll probably go on for another couple of hours. But yeah, I think you.
No, it's cold.
And we've realised you don't like the snow. Wicked, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me,
Much
guys.
appreciated.
I appreciate it. Seriously, thank you.